mathematics videos. Today you're going to need Monday the 22nd of June mathematics pack. Everyone's going to need a pencil, and some of you will need a ruler. Now if you have not got a ruler at home, that's absolutely fine. That's why I've put in this sheet here, and you can cut out the ruler at the top. I can only apologise that it is a small one, but because of the quality of the picture and printing off, it was just better to have that smaller ruler. Now if you've already had a look at your pack, you would have noticed we're doing about measurement this week. More specifically though, we are going to look at length. Now, length means how long an object is. But in order to measure the length of an object, we need something to do that. And that something can be a ruler. So we can use a ruler to measure the length, how long an object is. We want to know how long that object is, the length of that object. So our learning outcome today is, can I begin to measure the length of an object? I don't expect you to be able to do this straight away. It is quite tricky, so please take your time all of today and during the rest of the week. However, just to remember, one way that I like to remember length, how long an object is I don't know whether anybody's ever played the McDonald's game when we were able to sit at McDonald's and have a meal, but I always used to play with my mum, who's got the longest chip. And that's just one way that I remember length, how long something is. So if you ever think of McDonald's and their lovely chips, I always remember that as length. That's how long something is, just because me and my mum always used to play who's got the longest chip. Now, if we were to measure the length of a chip, how long that chip is, we would need a ruler, okay? And on that ruler, we would start at 0, not at this start of the ruler, at 0 centimetres. And this is what centimetres looks like, and it's quite a long word. So in maths, what we do is we shorten it, and we just write cm, a k and a n, just to represent centimetres, because it is such a long word to spell. So I'm going to measure the length of this chip. So I'm going to start at 0, that's the start of my object, and I'm going to draw a line to help me really clearly mark out the end of that object. I'm then going to look at these big numbers here. Now those big numbers represent the centimetres. So I can see that this chip, if I look at those big numbers, this chip, the length of it is 8 centimetres. And again, I'm going to write cm because that represents centimetres. If you just wrote 8, I wouldn't know if you meant 8 radiators, 8 apples. So in mathematics, we need to be specific in writing our measurements. And one of our measurements is centimetres. So that's why we write the cm for 8 centimetres. Now, when we do use a ruler, we have some ruler rules that you really need to remember to make sure that you're measuring accurately. We always start at 0, not the start or the end of the ruler. Our second ruler rule is we use the bigger numbers first. So we need to use these bigger numbers first in order to discover our length in centimetres. I'll explain a little bit later on in the video why we always start with those big numbers first. Now let me just show you what you're going to be doing today. You might have a sheet that looks like this. Now if you do have a sheet that looks like this, you will not need a ruler just yet. As you can see, the objects and the ruler are already on the sheet for you, and you are just going to have a go at measuring these objects against that ruler. And as you can see, this object is starting at 0, which is absolutely perfect, and the end of this object stops there. I'm then going to look at my big numbers, which represent the centimetres, and it stops at this number here, which is 9. So the length of this object is 9 centimetres. I'd like you to do that for these 4 objects here. Now we've got a different question. This is asking how many centimetres not exactly asking you to measure the length, you're just identifying, you're seeing if you can spot what centimetre that arrow is pointing at. And then you've got some statements here. It says this toy suitcase is 7 centimetres long. You will need to measure that object, and if you think, yeah, that toy suitcase is absolutely 7 centimetres long, you then need to write true. That statement is true. If it is not 7 centimetres long, that's when you will need to write false, but those spellings are there for you. If you've just got that sheet with these questions on, then please stop the video now, as there are some of you with a sheet with this little bit on at the end. So I'll see you tomorrow if your sheet has just got those questions on, but otherwise we're going to carry on, and this is when we will need a ruler. So we're going to give it a go at measuring those lines there. Okay, so I can see that this blue line here is at the start, so I'm going to remember my ruler rules, and I'm going to start measuring that line at 0. Okay, I'm going to follow these big numbers all along because they represent the centimetres, and my line stops there. Now that's a little bit tricky because it's stopping between the 12 and the 13, and this is where we need to discuss what I was trying to say earlier. Now, we start with the biggest number first because that shows the centimetres, and then we have to put a dot, a point. The reason we put a point is we have got a line that is a little bit longer, and we need to use these smaller lines here to read the millimetres. These are millimetres. They're little, they are smaller than centimetres. Okay, and there are 10 millimetres to every 1 centimetre. If we were to count all of these lines, these smaller ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll notice that 5 is a bit longer, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now we know that there's 10 millimetres in 1 centimetre. So let's try to measure the length of this line. Now it stops at this big line here. So let's count the millimetres. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I now know that the length of my line is 12.5 centimetres. It's not 12, there's a little bit more, there's some millimetres in there, so that's why I have to put the point to show that there's some millimetres. Okay, so now I know that my length of the line is 12.5 centimetres. You don't have to write that really long word. Have a go at just measuring the rest of those lines there and putting your answer into the box. Please use that ruler and make sure you're using our ruler rules. You're starting at 0, not the start of the ruler, and you're using those bigger numbers first, which represent those centimetres. Okay, so I hope you have fun with this, but again, please take your time and I will see you tomorrow.